all about after-death care and really supporting the bereaved. As service providers, we certainly will be faced with grief and with bereavement, and it's helpful to kind of understand what you might be seeing and experiencing, and then also know a little bit about how we can support those folks. It's going to be quite significant. There's going to be a lot in our community, so we really need to be prepared for the demand. When I think about death, I think when somebody that we care about dies, we come together. We come together to share memories, to give and receive support to one another. But during this pandemic, the ability to come together is impacted. Many of the traditions that we rely on to assist us with our grief and to mark our mourning are not possible. Simply put, the high risk of complicated grief, due to the interruption of usual deathbed and grief practices. So what can we do to address the psychosocial needs of the family members that are grieving, that are going through bereavement? You don't have to fix this, right? You just need to be present. You just need to listen. The messaging that you want to be sending verbally and with body language is that, I'm here. I can handle your grief. I see your sadness. I'm not scared of your despair. I'm not leaving. You're not alone. That's the messaging. That's the important stuff for these folks that are grieving so deeply. Go back to your basic training, right? Rapport building, connection, active listening, use of silence, summarizing, paraphrasing, normalizing, and supporting. The supporting piece, part of that can be, gently reviewing the loved one's current coping strategies and some alternate ones that might be helpful, sort of planting those seeds. And also, very importantly, using a strength-based approach. So really identifying and building on somebody's strengths and any signs of resilience that can offer hope and provide some reprieve as well, and build up their confidence that they can manage. Comforting touch as well. Again, it goes back to basic human nature, our innate need for connection and affection, of course, appropriately. Making yourself available to help with, practical things, problem solving. Remember though, when you're doing that you're doing it from a place of a partnership, and that you're not doing it from a place of, I'm the expert to help you. What I mean by that is somebody may be, struggling with going through all the legalities of post-death, all the paperwork that you need to do, contacting the bank and, the government, things like that. Do it as a partnership, right? Instead of you need to do this. Why haven't you done this? Checking in. How can I be helpful? What's overwhelming you? Is there anything that I can do for you so that you don't have to do it? That's the place to come from. Bereaved individuals also need concrete, clear information on the management of bodily remains and funeral arrangements. This is particularly important given the context that we're practicing in and all of the changes that are in new legislation around funeral practices. So the organization that you're working for likely has some bereavement protocols that can assist you with this. There's also going to be a link on this video to find a list of resources that talk about what the new legislation is, and you can even provide that directly to the families that you're supporting. It can also be really helpful if you're comfortable with it, to have a conversation with the patient and or their substitute decision maker prior to death about their wishes, values, and beliefs, and what after death care they would like, facilitating that conversation, and then connecting the patient and family to the funeral service of their choice prior to death can be really helpful, because then it allows those experts to be able to share what information they know about different legislations and restrictions and what the options are. There's some great options for alternatives. So if people are looking for some immediate resources, you may want to suggest, that they join a Facebook group that already exists. There's lots of them out there for bereavement in general, and then bereavement specific by loss. So if you've lost a mother, there's groups specific for that. If you've lost somebody to COVID-19, there's actually groups for that. And they also there's a number of different support groups that are out there already through, that are being done virtually through local hospices and other supportive organizations. I also suggest to family that they even make, their own Facebook group, for just their family and friends as a place to go to honor and remember the person who has died, or even to have a group chat on Skype or Zoom to kind of process some of those feelings, to grieve together, to share memories. That can be really helpful. Some options for funerals and celebrations of life right now in the context of limited people being allowed to be part of the funeral service and lots of other things. So one of the options is to have a 2-part service or even to postpone it. So there's absolutely nothing wrong to have the remains taken care of and then to have a service later on, so you can postpone it, or even have a 2-part service where you have one like a very brief service with just a small intimate group of people, and then you have a larger event later on when the restrictions have been lifted. There's also the option to stream a funeral service. Some funerals have been offering this for quite some time. You can check out, there's lots of information online about how to live stream a funeral or memorial. It can also be really helpful to include people that aren't able to be physically present at the service in the service. So maybe it's virtually, they have, you could have somebody do a eulogy from a distance, or sing a song from a distance, or read a poem from a distance. I think that can go a really long way in helping those folks who aren't able to be there to feel present and to feel like they are participating in a meaningful way. You could also do a virtual photo slideshow, which is pretty popular, has been for quite some time. Singing together, recording a song, those can all be really, really helpful. One person told me that they held their grandma's funeral through a Zoom meeting, and just 4 of her children and her spouses were at the funeral home for the service, but all of the grandchildren and the rest of the family was online, and so they were able to participate by singing together. And somebody played the piano virtually, and the people that were present for the funeral said that brought them such great comfort, knowing that they were sort of connected to those people, and that they were that they knew that the family were able to be part of it, and that they were able to participate in that therapeutic ritual of a funeral service. You can also have family members and friends do their own small rituals at the same time. So just knowing that everyone is doing the same thing at the same time can bring connection. So, it could be as simple as, all doing a toast, a cheers, an honoring to somebody, or, saying a specific prayer, or listening to a song that person loved. The comfort comes in the fact that everybody is doing it at the same time, and there's that collective comfort. Another thing that folks might want to consider is doing some kind of legacy piece. So creating a small memorial in their home, or even in their garden, planting a tree or a plant, making a small display that honors that person, that's meaningful and symbolic. So, despite all of the new restrictions that are in place for funeral services and celebrations of life right now, with limited visitation and use of personal protective equipment, there are still a lot of really wonderful ways to be able to engage in meaningful ritual. Leave it to my expert colleagues in the funeral service to help guide our families through this. What I just talked about is very simple and basic, but it's a jumping off point, and hopefully you can arm yourselves with that information. Keep that in your toolbox so that when you're having these conversations, family members may even start to talk to you about it beforehand, at the bedside or over the phone. I know that you all can do this. They are difficult times, but there still is a lot of hope. There's a lot of things that we still do have control over, and I know that you're going to do a great job at it.